Maya's hands were shaking as she rode the bus to the far side of town. She clutched the paper with the address written on it, reading it over and over to make sure she hadn't made a mistake. The job posting had seemed almost too good to be true. A private care position, good pay, night shifts only. She needed this job desperately. Her daughter Sophia was only 8 years old, and Maya was doing everything she could to keep them afloat. She worked at a grocery store during the day, cleaned office buildings 3 evenings a week, and now she was hoping to add this night shift to her schedule. Sleep could wait. Bills couldn't. The bus dropped her off in a neighborhood she'd only seen in magazines. Huge houses with iron gates, perfectly trimmed lawns, cars that cost more than she'd make in 10 years. She found the address and stood outside the massive estate, feeling completely out of place in her worn sneakers and simple clothes. A security guard buzzed her in after checking her name on a list. The driveway alone was longer than her entire street back home. When she reached the main house, a woman in a crisp uniform met her at the door. Her name tag read Mrs. Chen, and she had the no-nonsense look of someone who ran a tight ship. "You're the new night aide," Mrs. Chen said. It wasn't a question. "Follow me. I'll show you what needs to be done." Maya followed her through hallways that looked like something from a museum. Everything was expensive and cold. No family photos, no warmth, just perfectly decorated rooms that nobody seemed to actually live in. Mrs. Chen led her upstairs to a large bedroom that had been converted into what looked like a hospital room. There were machines everywhere, monitors beeping softly, an adjustable bed, medical equipment Maya couldn't even name. And in the middle of it all was a man lying completely still. "This is Mr. Alexander Blackwood," Mrs. Chen explained. "He's been in a vegetative state for 6 months following a car accident. Your job is simple. Monitor his vitals. Turn him every 2 hours to prevent bed sores. Keep him clean and comfortable. The nurse comes twice a day to handle his medications and feeding tube." "Any questions?" Maya stared at the man in the bed. He looked to be in his late 30s, maybe 40. Even lying there motionless, she could tell he'd once been powerful. There was something about his face, his build. This was someone who had commanded rooms full of people. "Now he couldn't even open his eyes, does he? Can he hear us?" Maya asked quietly. Mrs. Chen gave her a sad smile. "The doctors say probably not. There's minimal brain activity. His brother visits sometimes and the medical team checks on him regularly, but there's been no change in months. We just keep him comfortable. That's all we can do." After Mrs. Chen left, Maya stood alone in the room with Alexander Blackwood. The only sounds were the steady beep of the heart monitor and the soft hum of machines. She'd cared for elderly people before, helped them with daily tasks, kept them company, but this was different. This man wasn't elderly. He was young, successful, and according to Mrs. Chen, he'd built a billion-dollar company from nothing. Now he was just here, trapped, gone. Maya began her first shift by checking all the equipment like she'd been shown. Everything was working perfectly. Alexander's vitals were stable. His breathing was assisted by a ventilator. She knew the routine. Every 2 hours, she'd need to carefully reposition him. She'd check his IV lines, make sure nothing was uncomfortable, keep the room at the right temperature. But as the hours passed and the estate grew quiet, Maya felt increasingly uneasy with the silence. She'd always talked to the elderly people she cared for, even the ones with dementia who couldn't really respond. It felt wrong to treat someone like furniture, like they weren't there at all. "I know you probably can't hear me," Maya said softly, pulling a chair closer to the bed, "but it feels weird not talking. My name is Maya. I'm going to be taking care of you at night." She paused, feeling foolish, but the silence felt worse. "I have a daughter. Her name is Sophia. She's 8. She's the reason I'm here, working this shift. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. Can you imagine? We can barely afford our rent and she wants to go to college and become a vet." Maya smiled. "But I'm going to make it happen for her. Somehow." She spent the rest of the shift talking quietly while she worked. She told him about the bus ride over, about the sunset she'd seen that turned the whole sky orange and pink. She described the smell of the night air, the sound of crickets outside his window. She read him an article from the newspaper about new developments in the city. At one point while she was talking, she glanced at the heart monitor and noticed his heart rate had picked up slightly. She stopped talking, watching the numbers. They stayed elevated for a moment, then slowly returned to baseline. It was probably nothing, just a random fluctuation, The machines did that sometimes, but something about it stuck with her. Over the next few weeks, Maya fell into a routine. She'd arrive at 10 at night, and Mrs. Chen would give her a brief update before heading home. Then Maya would be alone with Alexander until 6 in the morning when the day nurse arrived. She always talked to him. At first, she felt self-conscious about it. The day staff would give her odd looks if they heard her chatting away to an unresponsive patient. But when she was alone, it felt natural. She told him about Sophia's school projects. She described the changing seasons she saw on her bus rides. She read him news articles about his company and the business world. She started to notice small things. When she played classical music on her phone while cleaning his room, his breathing seemed to even out, become more peaceful. When she read him financial news about his company, sometimes his eyelids would flutter, just barely. Once she could have sworn she saw his finger twitch. She mentioned it to Mrs. Chen one morning. "You're tired," Mrs. Chen said kindly but firmly. "Night shifts can play tricks on your mind. Mr. Blackwood's condition hasn't changed. The doctors have been very clear about that." Maya nodded, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was different. She started paying closer attention. She'd watch his face while she talked about different subjects. She'd note when his vitals changed, even slightly. She was probably imagining things, seeing what she wanted to see. Mrs. Chen was right. She was exhausted, working 3 jobs, barely sleeping. Her mind was probably just creating patterns where none existed. But every night she came back and talked to him anyway. She told herself it didn't matter if he could hear her or not. He deserved to be treated like a person. He deserved to have someone tell him about the world, to not be left alone in silence and darkness. "You know what I think?" Maya said one night about a month into the job. She was repositioning him carefully, making sure he was comfortable. "I think you're still in there somewhere. I don't know why I think that. The doctors say otherwise. Everyone says I'm wasting my time talking to you. But I don't think I am." She pulled his blanket up and adjusted his pillow. "So I'm going to keep talking. And if you can hear me even a little bit, I want you to know you're not alone. Someone sees you. Someone knows you're still a person, not just a patient in a bed." The heart monitor beeped steadily. Alexander's chest rose and fell with the ventilator's rhythm. Nothing changed, but Maya could have sworn. Just for a second, she saw his finger move. And this time, she was absolutely sure she hadn't imagined it. Maya started keeping a small notebook in her bag. Nothing fancy, just a little spiral notebook from the dollar store. Every night when something seemed different with Alexander, she'd write it down. The time, what she was doing, what she was talking about, and what she noticed. Tuesday, 11:47 p.m. Reading financial news about Blackwood Industries. Left eyelid fluttered twice. Thursday, 1:23 a.m. Playing Beethoven. Heart rate decreased from 72 to 68. Breathing more steady. Saturday, 3:15 a.m. Talking about Sophia's science fair project. Right index finger twitched. She knew how it looked. She knew what people would say, but she couldn't ignore what she was seeing. The problem was nobody else saw it. The day nurse would check Alexander's charts and see nothing unusual. The doctor who came once a week would examine him and report no changes. Mrs. Chen would smile at Maya kindly, like she was a child who believed in fairy tales. "You have a good heart," Mrs. Chen told her one morning, "but you can't get too attached. This job will break you if you let it." Maya didn't tell her about the notebook anymore. 2 months into the job, something changed. Alexander's brother started visiting more often. His name was Vincent, and he was everything Alexander apparently used to be. Confident, well-dressed, always on his phone, always talking about meetings and deals and numbers. But there was something about him that made Maya uncomfortable. Vincent would come into Alexander's room and barely look at his brother. He'd stand there for exactly 5 minutes checking his watch and then leave. Once Maya overheard him talking to his wife in the hallway. "How much longer do we have to keep this up?" the wife asked. Her voice was sharp, impatient. "The doctors say there's no hope for recovery," Vincent replied. "We're just maintaining appearances at this point. Mother wants to keep trying every treatment, throwing money at false hope. But we all know how this ends, and the company? Almost fully transitioned. Another few months and it won't matter what anyone says. I'll have complete control." Maya felt sick. She hurried away before they could see her, but their words stayed with her. They were just waiting for Alexander to die, or worse, they were counting on it. That night she told Alexander everything she'd heard. "Your brother was here today. she said quietly, checking his IV line. I don't think he believes you can get better. But I do. She pulled her chair close to his bed. I've been reading about locked-in syndrome. People are completely aware but can't move or speak. I think maybe that's what's happening to you. Alexander's heart rate increased slightly on the monitor. Maya watched it carefully. If you can hear me, if you're really in there, I need you to try something, anything. Move your finger. Flutter your eyelid. Anything to show me I'm not crazy. She waited. The machines beeped steadily. Nothing happened. Maya felt foolish. Mrs. Chen was right. She was getting too attached, too hopeful. I'm sorry, she whispered. I shouldn't have said that. I want to help you. She stood up to adjust his blanket, and that's when she saw it. His right hand, just barely, the fingers had curled slightly. It wasn't much. Anyone else would have missed it. But Maya had been watching for weeks now, and she knew. She absolutely knew. Her hands were shaking as she pressed the call button for Dr. Morrison, the neurologist who came for weekly checks. It was the middle of the night, but this couldn't wait. Dr. Morrison arrived 20 minutes later, looking annoyed at being called in. He was a good doctor, but clearly didn't believe there was any hope for Alexander's recovery. Maya had heard him tell Vincent as much. What's the emergency? He asked, setting down his medical bag. His hand moved, Maya said. I saw it. His fingers curled. Dr. Morrison sighed. Ms. Rodriguez, we've discussed this. Random muscle movements are common in vegetative patients. It doesn't indicate consciousness. But what if it's not random? What if he's trying to communicate? I'll run some tests to ease your mind, but I can assure you there's been no change in his condition. Maya watched as Dr. Morrison performed a series of neurological tests. He shined lights in Alexander's eyes. He tested reflexes. He checked the machines. Everything came back the same as always, see? Dr. Morrison said, not unkindly. Nothing has changed. I know you want to help him, but false hope isn't helpful for anyone. After he left, Maya sat alone with Alexander again. She felt defeated. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe she was just a tired woman working too many jobs, seeing patterns in random movements because she wanted so badly to believe she was making a difference. But then she remembered something. Dr. Morrison had tested Alexander while talking about medical procedures in technical terms. Maya's notebook showed that Alexander responded to specific things. Financial news, stories about his company, personal conversations. Okay, she said softly. Let me try something. If you can hear me, if you're really in there, I'm going to read you an article about your company, and I need you to try to respond. Can you do that? She pulled out her phone and found a recent news article about Blackwood Industries. It talked about new policies Vincent had implemented, changes to the company's charitable foundation, cuts to employee benefits. As she read, she watched Alexander carefully. At first, nothing happened. But when she got to the part about the employee benefit cuts, she saw it. His jaw tightened. Just slightly, but it was there. You heard that, didn't you? Maya's heart was racing. You don't like what Vincent is doing to your company. She kept reading. Every time she mentioned Vincent's changes, she saw small reactions. A twitch of the eyelid, a change in breathing. His heart rate fluctuating on the monitor. It wasn't random. It couldn't be. Maya made a decision right then. She was going to prove that Alexander was still aware. But she couldn't go to Dr. Morrison or Mrs. Chen again. They wouldn't believe her without hard evidence. She needed help from someone who specialized in cases like this. The next day, Maya went to the library. She researched consciousness disorders and locked-in syndrome. She found articles about new technologies for communication with minimally conscious patients. One name kept appearing. Dr. Rachel Kim, a researcher who had developed a new protocol for detecting awareness in supposedly vegetative patients. She worked at a hospital 3 hours away and had published papers about cases where patients were far more aware than anyone realized. Maya found Dr. Kim's email and spent time writing a message. She explained Alexander's case, described what she'd been seeing, and attached photos from her notebook. She knew it was a long shot, but she sent it anyway. 3 days later, she got a response. Dr. Kim wanted to evaluate Alexander. But there was a problem. She needed the family's permission. Maya's stomach sank. Vincent would never agree. He didn't want Alexander to recover. The conversation she'd overheard made that clear. And Mrs. Chen had mentioned that Alexander's mother lived in a nursing facility upstate, that she wasn't involved in his care anymore. That night, Maya told Alexander about the email from Dr. Kim. I found someone who might be able to help you, she said. But I need your family's permission, and your brother isn't going to give it. He wants the company. He doesn't want you to wake up. She paused, thinking hard. Your mother. Mrs. Chen said she's in a nursing home. Does she have the authority to make medical decisions for you? Alexander's heart rate spiked on the monitor. It was the strongest reaction Maya had ever seen. She does, doesn't she? But your brother has been keeping her away. Another spike in heart rate. Maya knew what she had to do. It was risky. She could lose her job. She could get in serious trouble. But if Alexander was really trapped, aware of everything but unable to communicate, then she had to try. I'm going to find your mother, Maya promised. I'm going to show her what I've documented. And I'm going to get Dr. Kim in here to test you properly. I don't care what your brother says. For the first time in 6 months, Maya could have sworn she saw something in Alexander's eyes. Not movement exactly, but something deeper. A presence. A person trapped behind walls he couldn't break through. And she was going to help him break free. Finding Alexander's mother wasn't easy. Mrs. Chen had mentioned a nursing facility upstate, but she didn't know which one. Maya couldn't ask without raising suspicion, so Maya did what she'd learned to do best. She paid attention and waited for an opportunity. It came 2 weeks later when Vincent visited with his wife, Diane. Maya was in Alexander's room, doing her usual routine, when they walked in. She immediately started to leave, but Vincent stopped her. Actually, stay, he said. I need a witness for this. Maya's stomach dropped. A witness for what? Vincent pulled out some papers from his briefcase. These are documents to transfer Alexander to a long-term care facility. The costs of keeping him here are becoming unreasonable. A specialized facility will be better equipped to handle his needs. Maya looked at the papers, then at Alexander. His heart rate had spiked on the monitor. Does your mother know about this? Maya asked before she could stop herself. Vincent's eyes narrowed. My mother isn't in a position to make these decisions. She had a stroke last year. She's in a facility herself. But she's still his medical proxy, isn't she? I've seen the paperwork in his file. Diane stepped forward, her voice sharp. That's really none of your concern. You're a caregiver, not a family member. You're right, Maya said quietly. I'm just his caregiver. But I care about what's best for him. After they left, Maya's hands were shaking. She'd probably just gotten herself fired. But she'd also learned something important. Alexander's mother was still his medical proxy, and Vincent was trying to move Alexander before she could interfere with his plans. Maya made a decision that night. She called in sick to her grocery store job the next day. She couldn't afford to lose the hours, but this was more important. She took a bus, then a train, going through 3 different towns until she reached Meadowbrook Senior Living Center. The facility was nice, clean and well-maintained. She walked up to the reception desk, her heart pounding. I'm here to visit Catherine Blackwood, Maya said, hoping she sounded more confident than she felt. The receptionist checked her computer. Are you family? I'm her son's caregiver. I have some updates about his condition. The receptionist hesitated, then nodded. Room 204, second floor. But please keep in mind that Mrs. Blackwood has good days and bad days. The stroke affected her speech. Maya found room 204 and knocked softly. A woman's voice called out, Come in. Catherine Blackwood was sitting in a chair by the window, a book in her lap. She was in her 70s, with silver hair and eyes that looked just like Alexander's. When she saw Maya, confusion crossed her face. I'm sorry to bother you, Maya said. My name is Maya Rodriguez. I'm your son Alexander's night caregiver. Catherine's whole body went rigid. Alexander? Has something happened? Is he worse? No, Maya said quickly. But I need to talk to you about him. May I sit down? For the next hour, Maya told Catherine everything. About the responses she'd been documenting. About Dr. Kim and the possibility of locked-in syndrome. About Vincent's plan to move Alexander to a long-term facility. She showed Catherine her notebook, the careful record she'd kept. Catherine's hands trembled as she looked through the pages. You really think he's aware? I know it, Maya said. I've been with him every night for months. He responds to specific things. He's in there, Mrs. Blackwood. He's trapped, but he's fighting. Tears streamed down Catherine's face. Vincent told me there was no hope. He said the doctors were certain. He said it would be too upsetting for me to visit, that I should remember Alexander as he was. Vincent doesn't want Alexander to wake up, Maya said. I overheard him talking. He's taken over the company. Catherine's expression hardened. She reached for her phone with shaking hands. That boy, I knew something wasn't right. A mother knows. Her speech was slightly slurred from the stroke, but her determination was clear. Call Dr. Kim. I want her to evaluate my son. Today, if possible. It might take a few days to arrange, Maya said. But with your permission, you have it. You have whatever you need, and Maya? Catherine gripped her hand. Thank you. Thank you for not giving up on him. The next 3 days were chaos. Dr. Kim arrived with her team and equipment. Vincent showed up furious. Catherine arrived too, in a wheelchair but fierce, informing her younger son that she was still Alexander's medical proxy. Maya watched from the corner of the room as Dr. Kim set up her equipment. It was more advanced than anything she'd seen before. Eye-tracking cameras, sophisticated monitoring devices, a computer system that would detect even the smallest intentional movements. This is ridiculous, Vincent said. You're giving this woman false hope based on the imagination of a caregiver who works night shifts and is probably half asleep most of the time. I'm right here, Maya said quietly, and I'm not imagining anything. Dr. Kim ignored the argument. She positioned herself where Alexander could see her, if he could see anything at all. Mr. Blackwood? My name is Dr. Rachel Kim. If you can hear me and understand me, I want you to try to move your eyes up toward the ceiling. Just your eyes. Can you do that for me? Everyone held their breath. The room was completely silent except for the beeping of monitors. And then slowly, deliberately, Alexander's eyes moved upward. Catherine gasped. Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. Even Vincent went pale. Good, Dr. Kim said calmly, though Maya could hear the excitement in her voice. Now look down toward the floor. Alexander's eyes moved down. Incredible, Dr. Kim murmured, checking her equipment. Mr. Blackwood, look up for yes and down for no. Do you understand? Up. Are you aware of where you are? Up. Do you know how long you've been in this condition? Up. Can you hear us when we talk to you? Up. Emphatically up. Dr. Kim spent the next 2 hours asking questions, establishing a communication system. Yes and no at first. Then more complex responses using eye movements to spell out words on a letterboard. It was slow, painstaking work, but it worked. And the first thing Alexander spelled out, letter by painstaking letter, was, Maya was right. Vincent left the room, his face white. Diane followed him, already on her phone. Catherine sat by Alexander's bed, holding his hand, tears running down her face as she talked to her son for the first time in 6 months. Dr. Kim pulled Maya aside. How did you know? I didn't know, Maya admitted. I couldn't ignore what I was seeing. Everyone kept telling me I was wrong, but something inside me said to keep trying. You saved his life, Dr. Kim said. If he'd been moved to that long-term facility, no one would have ever discovered this. He would have spent the rest of his life trapped, fully conscious, with no way to communicate. Do you understand what that means? Maya looked over at Alexander. His eyes found hers across the room. Using the system Dr. Kim had taught him, he slowly spelled out, Thank you. I was just doing my job, Maya said, but her voice cracked. Dr. Kim shook her head. No, you did so much more than that. That night, after everyone had left and the estate was quiet again, Maya sat with Alexander. Dr. Kim had left the eye-tracking computer set up so he could communicate more easily. I have to tell you something, Maya said. And I don't know if I should, but you deserve to know. She told him about the documents she'd found, about the conversation she'd overheard between Vincent and Diane, about her suspicion that his accident might not have been an accident at all. Alexander's response came slowly on the screen. I know. Brakes failed, not accident. Maya's blood ran cold. You knew this whole time? Couldn't tell anyone, couldn't move, couldn't speak, watched Vincent take everything. We need to tell someone, Maya said. The police, a lawyer, someone. Evidence. Need evidence. Vincent is careful. Then we'll find it, Maya promised. You're not trapped anymore. You can communicate now. We'll figure this out together. She didn't know how they'd do it. She didn't know what evidence they'd need or how they'd get it. But she knew one thing for certain. She hadn't saved Alexander's life just to watch his brother destroy everything he'd built. The fight was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The morning after Alexander revealed the truth, Maya arrived to find the estate in turmoil. Vincent had hired new security guards who checked her identification 3 times before letting her through. Mrs. Chen pulled her aside the moment she walked in. "Be careful," the older woman whispered. "Vincent is trying to get you fired. He's claiming you overstepped your authority by contacting his mother." "I was doing my job," Maya said. "I know, and I'm on your side, but he's powerful, and he's angry." Maya found Catherine sitting with Alexander, the eye-tracking computer between them. Mother and son were having a conversation, slow and painstaking, but real. Catherine's face was streaked with tears, but she was smiling. "Maya," Catherine said when she noticed her, "Alexander wants to talk to you." Maya sat down where Alexander could see her clearly. His eyes moved deliberately and words appeared on the screen. "Need your help. Office in basement. Files locked in safe." "What files?" Maya asked. "Evidence. Financial records, Vincent's embezzlement, proof he tampered with my car. But how do I get into the safe?" Alexander's eyes moved carefully, spelling out a combination. Maya memorized it, her heart racing. "This is dangerous," Catherine said. "If Vincent catches you..." "He won't," Maya said, though she wasn't sure she believed it. "When does Vincent usually leave the estate?" "He comes in the mornings, leaves around 3, Catherine answered. "But the security guards are everywhere now." Alexander's eyes moved again. "They change shifts at 2, 15 minutes, window." Maya looked at the clock. It was just past noon. She had hours to wait, hours to think about everything that could go wrong. But she also thought about Alexander, trapped in his own body for 6 months, watching his brother steal everything he'd built. She thought about Sophia and the kind of world she wanted her daughter to grow up in. A world where people did the right thing even when it was hard. "I'll do it," Maya said. The next few hours crawled by. Maya tried to act normal, but her mind was racing. Catherine left around 1. Vincent walked past at 2:30 talking on his phone. He didn't glance at his brother. At exactly 2 o'clock, Maya watched the security guards switch shifts. There was a gap, just like Alexander said. Maya slipped out and made her way to the basement. The office was exactly where Alexander had indicated. Behind the desk was a painting, and behind it was a safe. She entered the combination Alexander had given her. The safe clicked open. Inside were folders. Maya grabbed her phone and started taking pictures. Financial statements showing Vincent had been embezzling for over 2 years. Emails about handling the Alexander problem, and most damning, a receipt from a mechanic dated 2 days before Alexander's accident, with brake line modification in the notes. Maya's hands trembled as she photographed everything. She was so focused that she didn't hear the footsteps behind her until it was too late. "Well, well," Vincent's voice made her jump. "The dedicated caregiver. Breaking into my office." Maya spun around. Vincent stood in the doorway, blocking her exit. Diane was behind him, phone in hand. "I'm calling the police," Diane said. "That's actually a great idea," Maya said, surprising herself with how steady her voice sounded. "Call them. I'd love to show them what I just found in this safe." Vincent's expression darkened. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. Give me your phone." "No. Give me your phone, or I'll have you arrested for trespassing and theft." "Arrest me then," Maya said, "because I've already sent these photos to someone, a lawyer, and if anything happens to me, they go straight to the police and the media." She was bluffing. She hadn't sent the photos anywhere yet. But Vincent didn't know that. "You're just a caregiver," Vincent said, stepping closer. "Nobody will believe you. I'll say you fabricated everything. Who do you think they'll trust? A poor single mother desperate for money, or me?" "Actually," a new voice said from behind Vincent, "they'll trust Dr. Rachel Kim, who will testify that Alexander identified you as his attempted murderer." Dr. Kim stood in the hallway with 2 police officers. Vincent's face went pale. "This is ridiculous. You have no proof of anything." "We have plenty," Dr. Kim said, "including Alexander's testimony and these documents." One of the officers stepped forward. "Mr. Vincent Blackwood, we need you to come with us for questioning." What happened next was a blur. Vincent was read his rights. Diane tried to run but was stopped by the second officer. Maya was asked to give a statement, which she did, showing them all the photos she'd taken. Later that evening, Maya sat with Alexander and Catherine. The estate was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet. Peaceful instead of oppressive. "How did Dr. Kim know to come?" Maya asked. Catherine smiled. I called her. Alexander told me what you were planning, and I wasn't going to let you face Vincent alone. Dr. Kim contacted the police, and they were already investigating based on Alexander's testimony. Maya looked at Alexander. You set this whole thing up. His response came on the screen. Needed evidence, couldn't get it myself, needed someone brave. I wasn't brave, Maya said. I was terrified. Bravery isn't absence of fear, it's action despite fear. You saved my life twice now. Tears welled up in Maya's eyes. I was just doing what was right. Most people don't. Most people look away. You didn't. Over the next weeks, everything changed. Vincent and Diane were formally charged. The evidence built an overwhelming case. Alexander began intensive physical therapy. Progress was slow. He could move his fingers now, his hands. He could turn his head. Speaking was still difficult, but he was working on it every day. The company board voted to reinstate Alexander as CEO once he was ready, with a team of executives to handle day-to-day operations until his recovery progressed further. Catherine came out of retirement to serve as interim chairperson, and Maya found herself in an unexpected position. Alexander asked her to stay on as his caregiver and eventually join the company's new patient advocacy foundation. He wanted to help others like him. I don't know anything about running a foundation, Maya had protested. You know what matters most, Alexander spelled out. You know how to see people as human. That's more valuable than any business degree. Catherine had hugged Maya, thanking her repeatedly. She'd established a college fund for Sophia and paid off Maya's debts. But more than the money, she'd given Maya belief in herself. One evening, 3 months after Vincent's arrest, Maya was helping Alexander with his physical therapy exercises. He was frustrated. His progress had plateaued. The doctor said he might never regain full mobility. You're being too hard on yourself, Maya said gently, guiding his arm through the movement. Alexander's speech had improved enough that he could manage short sentences now, though they came out slow and effortful. Want to walk on again? You will, but healing takes time. Tired of time, Maya sat down next to him. You know what I think? I think you've already accomplished something incredible. 6 months ago, everyone thought you were gone. Now you're here. You're communicating. You're moving. You're fighting. That's not nothing, Alexander. That's everything. He looked at her with those intense eyes that had first made her believe someone was still inside. You believed when no one else did, because you were worth believing in, Maya. He struggled with the words. Thank you for my life. Thank you for mine, she said softly. Before I met you, I was just surviving, working 3 jobs, barely keeping my head above water. Now Sophia and I have a future. You gave us that. You gave me future, too. Outside the window, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Maya thought about that first night she'd arrived at the estate, nervous and out of place. She'd never imagined that talking to a man everyone said couldn't hear her would change everything. But it had, for both of them. The road ahead was still long. Alexander had months, maybe years of recovery ahead. Vincent's trial was approaching. The foundation was just getting started. But for the first time in a long time, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. And sitting next to her, working hard to regain control of his body, was a man who'd learned that the most powerful thing in the world wasn't money or status. It was human connection. And sometimes it took losing everything to understand what truly mattered. 1 year later, Maya stood in front of a mirror adjusting her blazer. It felt strange wearing professional clothes instead of her caregiver scrubs. You look nervous, Sophia said from the doorway. Her daughter had grown taller this year, more confident. I am nervous, Maya admitted. This is a big day. Today was the official launch of the Blackwood Foundation for Consciousness Advocacy. After months of planning, they were finally ready to help other patients like Alexander. You're going to be amazing, Mom, Sophia said, hugging her. You always are. Maya drove to the foundation's headquarters. The main conference room was filled with doctors, researchers, family members, and journalists. Catherine was already there, greeting guests. She'd made a remarkable recovery and had thrown herself into the foundation's work. When she saw Maya, she smiled warmly. Ready to change the world? Catherine asked. Ready to try, Maya said. Alexander arrived last, wheeling himself in. He'd made incredible progress over the past year. He could speak in full sentences now, though his words still required effort. He could move his arms and hands with increasing control. Walking was still beyond reach, but his doctors were optimistic. But more than his physical recovery, it was the change in his eyes that struck Maya most. The trapped look was gone. In its place was determination, purpose, and peace. "Thank you all for coming," Alexander said when the room quieted. His speech was careful but clear. "A year ago I was trapped, fully conscious but completely unable to communicate. The medical system had given up on me. My own family had given up on me. Everyone except one person." He looked at Maya and she felt her cheeks warm. Maya Rodriguez saw me as a human being when everyone else saw a hopeless case. She talked to me. She noticed the small responses that everyone else dismissed. She refused to give up, even when doing so cost her sleep, put her job at risk, and required her to stand up to people far more powerful than her. Alexander paused, gathering his strength for the next words. "This foundation exists because Maya believed in human dignity, because she understood something that our healthcare system often forgets. Every patient deserves to be treated as a person, not a diagnosis. Every family deserves hope and support, not dismissal. And every caregiver deserves the tools and resources to provide truly compassionate care." The room erupted in applause. Maya felt tears prickling her eyes. She'd never wanted recognition or praise. She just wanted to do what was right. Over the next hour, they unveiled the Foundation's programs: training for healthcare workers, grants for communication technology, support networks for caregivers, and research partnerships to study new methods of treating consciousness disorders. After the presentation, a journalist approached Maya. "How does it feel to go from cleaning offices to running a major foundation?" Maya thought about the question. "Honestly, I'm the same person I was a year ago. I still believe the same things. I still care about the same things. The only difference is now I have the resources to help more people." "Do you ever think about how different your life would be if you hadn't taken that night shift?" "Every day," Maya admitted. "But I also think about Alexander. How many other people like him are out there right now, with no one to advocate for them? That's what keeps me going." Later that evening, after all the guests had left, Maya found Alexander sitting alone in his office, looking out the window at the city lights. "Tired?" she asked, settling into the chair across from him. "Always," he said with a slight smile. "But it's a good tired, the kind that comes from doing something meaningful. Your speech was perfect today. I practiced it with you for weeks. You're a good teacher." They sat in comfortable silence. Their relationship had evolved into something neither could quite define. It wasn't romantic, though there was deep affection. It wasn't just professional, though they worked together daily. It was something deeper. A bond forged in darkness, built on trust and respect. "I've been thinking," Alexander said slowly, "about the trial." Vincent's trial had concluded 2 months ago. He'd been found guilty and sentenced to 15 years. Diane had taken a plea deal. The whole ordeal had been painful. "What about it?" Maya asked. "I'm not angry anymore. I thought I would be for the rest of my life, but I'm not." "That's growth," Maya said gently. "I think it's perspective," Alexander replied. "Being trapped taught me what actually matters. It's not money or power or revenge. It's connection. It's being seen and heard. It's knowing someone cares whether you live or die." He turned his wheelchair to face her directly. "You gave me that, Maya. You saw me when I was invisible. You heard me when I was silent. You cared when everyone else had moved on. You would have done the same for someone else," Maya said. "No," Alexander said honestly. "I wouldn't have. The old me wouldn't have noticed. I was too busy, too focused on deals and profits. I wouldn't have taken the time to talk to someone who couldn't respond." He paused, his next words coming with difficulty because of their emotional weight. "You made me better by showing me what real compassion looks like." Maya felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "You changed my life too. You gave Sophia and me opportunities I never dreamed possible." "That's just money," Alexander said. "You gave me something far more valuable. You gave me hope when I had none. You gave me dignity when I was helpless. You gave me proof that goodness exists in the world." The next morning, Maya brought Sophia to the foundation. Her daughter had asked to volunteer after school. Maya watched as Alexander patiently showed Sophia how to use the database system. This was Alexander's real recovery, Maya realized. Not the physical therapy or mobility. It was this, the ability to connect with others, to give back, to use his second chance to make a difference. Dr. Kim stopped by later that afternoon with exciting news. We've identified 3 more patients showing signs of locked-in syndrome that were missed by standard assessments. The protocols we developed here are working. 3 more people who won't be trapped, Maya said. 3 more families who won't lose hope, Catherine added. That evening, as Maya prepared to leave for the day, Alexander stopped her. I need to tell you something, he said. The board wants to make you co-director of the foundation, equal partnership with me. Maya stared at him. Alexander, I don't have the experience. You have exactly the experience that matters. You have the heart for this work. The vision, the dedication. You understand what these families are going through because you've lived it. Say yes. Maya thought about the woman she'd been a year ago. Working 3 jobs, exhausted, barely surviving. She thought about all the times she'd felt invisible, dismissed because of where she came from, and she thought about Alexander, trapped in his own body, invisible in a different way. 2 people from completely different worlds who'd saved each other. Yes, she said. 6 months later, the foundation had helped over 50 families. They'd trained hundreds of healthcare workers and funded research that was changing how doctors assessed consciousness. Maya still talked to Alexander every day, but now he could respond. They'd debate policies, discuss challenging cases, share stories. Sometimes he'd tell her about his old life, the mistakes he'd made. She'd tell him about growing up poor, about the strength it took to keep going. They'd both been trapped in their own ways. Him in his body, her in circumstances that seemed unchangeable. And they'd both found freedom through an unlikely connection. One afternoon, a young caregiver came to the foundation, worried about a patient she was caring for. Everyone says there's no hope, the woman said, tears in her eyes. But I keep thinking I see responses, little things. But the doctors say I'm imagining it. Maya took her hand. Tell me everything, and don't leave out any detail, no matter how small it seems. As the caregiver talked, Maya caught Alexander's eye across the room. He smiled, a slow but genuine smile. They both knew how this story would go, because they'd lived it, and now they'd spend the rest of their lives making sure other people got the same second chance they'd been given. Sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. Sometimes the person who saves you is the one everyone else overlooked, and sometimes the smallest act of human kindness can change absolutely everything.